All right, the 2025 schedule just dropped, and if you guys know how they're kind of doing this, it's the same schedule as this year, except the away opponents become home games, the home opponents become away games. And if you followed this season, you know we had a very favorable home slate where all your toughest games were in Kyle Field. Well, now they're all on the road, and Arkansas is on the road because that rivalry is no longer happening at Jerry World. Let's go through the schedule. It's a very daunting looking schedule. I'm just going to tell you guys up front. But there are a few things I like about it. There are a couple of nice lineups on this schedule structure wise, even though the home away split is very brutal. So we're going to go game by game, and then I'm going to give you my overall thoughts about kind of the season looking way out in advance because we're in the middle of portal season right now. We have no idea what the team's going to even look like next year at this moment. A lot of exciting names on the list potentially for Texas A&M this portal session. Going to really change how we predict the season. But as of now, we can go off this schedule and see how we're feeling. So to start the season off, Jeff Traylor and the UTSA Roadrunners coming to Kyle Field. Then you get Utah State, and then you're on the road at Notre Dame. So thankfully, the first game of the year is not on the road at Notre Dame. We knew that this last offseason there was a heightened sense of urgency going into Notre Dame as your first game. A little bit of a kind of like a what's the word? Like a light at the end of the tunnel, something for the team to kind of work towards. And that was good. That was a bonus during camp. Maybe just focus you up a little bit more knowing you have Notre Dame. But with a year one schedule, you really kind of wish you would have had a couple of ramp ups, at least in hindsight, because you didn't win the Notre Dame game. You didn't look great in the Notre Dame game. That was one of the weaker games for us of the year, especially offensively against a good defense. But now you get a couple of ramp ups, and UTSA coming off a bit of a down year, Utah State, not the best team. It'll be a couple of great opportunities for A&M to kind of knock some rust off, get the dress rehearsal going, get the play calling juices flowing, get some chemistry because we have a feeling there are going to be some new wide receivers out there, a new rotation at defensive line, maybe a couple of other newbies. This is a really, really good ramp up to Notre Dame. And then a bye week after that game, a little bit early in my opinion to get a bye week, but take it, regroup early, figure yourself out early, self-assessed, self-adjust during that bye week after your 3-game sample size. You go into that undefeated, you're feeling really good. Coming off of a loss, you could evaluate things. Then you're in SEC play. And the nice thing about SEC play on this schedule is that it starts with 3 home games. Not going to be easy, but I would say Auburn and Mississippi State are decent home draws, decent chances to get wins under your belt, although I do expect Auburn to improve next year. Big difference playing them in Jordan-Hare versus Kyle Field, at least right now in their arc under Hugh Freeze. Well, I do think they improve next year. I still don't think where they're going. I think Hugh Freeze can take them a long way, but I still think we're probably a year out from that. Let's see how they do in the portal. Let's see if they can grab a quarterback. There's some good quarterbacks in the portal that they could grab, not Connor Wigman, but I like this. I like this start to the SEC slate. Mississippi State, again, early in the arc under Jeff Lebby. Might have a new quarterback next year. Michael Van Buren in the transfer portal. Surprisingly, Jackson Arnold, a candidate to be there. Blake Shapen coming back another year there. They're losing some receiver talent. One of those players or two could be at A&M next year. I think you have a good chance to handle Mississippi State at home. And then Florida at home. Florida is set to be a very good team next year. Impressed this year, largely exceeded expectations this year, won 7 games. A lot of people had him winning 4 less this year. They're in a good place, surprisingly. I know, one of the surprise performances of the year, but you get them at home, and that feels pretty good. This is where things get off the rails. This is where things get a little unhinged and crazy. You're going to Arkansas. That hasn't happened in a long time, and that's a fan base that wants to beat you. Here's the thing, though. They're kind of in shambles right now. Unfortunately for the Razorback faithful, they're dealing with a mass exodus of players right now in the portal, even though Sam Pittman is coming back another year. So players are just wanting to get out of the situation. So Arkansas could be looking at a rough year next year. So this starts your rough portion of the schedule. It's going to be tough to travel there. Winning games on the road in the SEC are never easy. But right now, Arkansas does look pretty manageable for Arkansas and how this matchup has typically been. It looks like it could be a weaker iteration of Arkansas, one of the weaker ones we've seen in recent history. So let's see how that plays out. We're in the middle of the portal season. Then you're at LSU. Garrett Nussmeier just announced he's coming back. Sounds like they're in the running for some great receivers. They are going to have to rebuild quite a bit at the offensive line, but they recruit the position well. We'll see how that goes for them. Defensively, I mean, they have to probably improve, I would think. Year 2 with that new staff. still, had some highs this year, but really still not the defense they need to compete. They're probably a better team next year than they were this year. I would estimate right now if they get the right pieces of the offensive line. It's going to be a challenge to go and beat LSU, no doubt. A&M has not won in Baton Rouge since they've joined the conference. Starts your tough slate. Now, this bye week is a blessing because if you haven't noticed, you're in the middle of just a sabbatical. You're away from Kyle Field for 5 weeks here. You go Florida, and then prep week for Arkansas. I mean, that's 1 week away from Kyle Field. LSU, that's 2 weeks. Off week, that's 3 weeks. Missouri, that's 4 weeks. Then the 5th week, you're finally back for South Carolina. Thankfully, you get the bye week, come home, rest, recharge your batteries a little bit. On the road at Missouri. Missouri's been recruiting pretty well. They're going to lose a few weapons this year. I think we really need to see kind of how things progress over fall and spring for a team like Missouri to see where they're at. But it's another road game in the SEC, and just the nature of being on the road for a month and not having a home game for a long-ass time, that's tough. That wears on you. These players are going to be worn down by the time they play this game. That's why the bye week is really important. But that's just a tough stretch to deal with, and there's reason to believe A&M could lose 1 or 2 of those games. Then you're at home for South Carolina. Looks to be a pretty damn good team next year. Lenora Sellers confirmed returning. They should get enough pieces back defensively, but again, we're going to have to watch how this kind of trends over the next few weeks in the portal and whatnot to see what all these teams really are. But you're glad you get them at home. You get Samford at home. Jimbo Fisher's son, Ethan, is a kicker for Samford. Maybe this is Jimbo's return to Kyle Field. I mean, there's reason to believe that's true. Yeah, you get your November FCS cupcake, which none of us really like, but is good for the team. Unfortunately, you get that before you travel to Austin at DKR for Texas. Texas will be good next year. Probably Arch Manning. I mean, who knows what happens with Quinn. O-line, they're going to lose a bunch of pieces there. They do have a bit of rebuilding to do themselves, but they are recruiting really, really well. So they'll probably be as formidable as an opponent as you can see in an SEC slate. Once again, on the road. Try to get to that game. Try to take the stadium over. But anyway, this game is difficult. This schedule is difficult because of the home-away split. 5 tough away games. Maybe Arkansas is not tough, but at least 4 really tough away games, and then traveling to Arkansas it's never just going to be a simple task until you go out there and do it. But at Notre Dame, at LSU, at Missouri, at Texas. That's a tough 4 games to win for a team in A&M that has not been good on the road for going on 5 years now. Can they right that ship next year? This is year 2 under Elko. Supposed to see a lot of improvement from year 1 to year 2 with coordinators, head coach, a staff. That should help a lot. But I think there is a world where your team improves, but you're still an 8 or 9 win football team with this level of schedule. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think if you win 9 games with this schedule, I know it's a year 2. I know you want to get to 10. I know 10 locks you into the playoff. But winning 9 with this schedule, the way we look at it now, of course, a lot more to play out. 9 would feel like a big win with this schedule. And 10 would feel like a playoff lock, an SEC championship game lock with this schedule. The way we know how this conference is trending, the way talent has kind of dispersed from the top a little bit and leaked into the other SEC teams, but with the transfer portal and NIL opportunities, a little bit more NFL-like where any team can get anybody any given Saturday. Feels like 10 wins gets you into the SEC championship for the foreseeable future, at least you would think. 10 wins would be huge. But right now, if you're being smart, this is an 8-9 win schedule. Let's see what happens in the portal. A lot of really intriguing visitors at Texas A&M right now. But I would say caution. Caution in getting your expectations too high. This is a tough, tough schedule. But let's see what Elko and company can do. Guys, give me your comments on this schedule. How do you feel about the slate? Like and subscribe. Thanks for being here. I'll see you guys soon. I'll be going live Thursday night. Later.